G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we're going to be showing you how to prevent leaks in your reef aquarium. We're going to show you how to identify specific risks and what you can do to prevent them, and we're going to show you a cheap and simple device that could prevent a leak on your reef tank. Today we're here at Reef Royale and we're going to be having a look at this tank as an example of ways that you can have a leak with your reef tank. Now there's three main areas that we're going to be addressing today. The first is the plumbing, the second is the automatic top-up system, and the third is the protein skimmer. So let's start by looking at the plumbing on Reef Royale and what we've done to prevent a leak. I've taken the skimmer cup off so we can have a closer look at the plumbing on Reef Royale. Now this is one area where I've already worked on to prevent the chance of a flood. And originally this tank had a system which was a twin drainage system. So there was two pipes that drain water from the tank down to the sump. The first has this ball valve on it. The second was a Durso. Now, there was no emergency overflow. And the problem with this is that if you have something that blocks the primary drain, then potentially if the secondary drain can't take all the flow, then you can have a problem where water can spill over the top of the tank. And in this case, the way that we fixed the problem was we repurposed the return, which is the back here, into an emergency overflow drain. So if it ever happens that something such as a big bit of algae or snails or a dead body of a fish or something like that were to clog this primary drain, we have the secondary drain and an emergency overflow. So certainly having a considered setup for your plumbing and your drainage is particularly important when you're looking to leak-proof your tank. Now, the other thing with plumbing, of course, is that it can potentially leak, but really that's to do with the installation, ensuring that you properly seal each of the points that they're joined. But we know that with this tank that we don't have any leaks in the plumbing itself, but there's something else that we do to ensure that the plumbing doesn't cause us a leak, and that is a stop return pump test. So let's look at what we do there. So this test is where we turn off the return pump and we see how much water drains down into the sump. Now it's a test that we typically do in the first week or so of installing a marine aquarium or any tank with a sump for that matter. And it's important that you can be sure that if something happens to the return pump, that you don't have so much water draining from the tank to the sump that it overflows. So very simple to test this. We're going to turn off our Octovarios 6 return pump and we're going to watch and see how high the water raises in the sump. Water has finished draining from the tank into the sump, and so we can see that we've got a heap of additional space. So there's a very little chance that we'll ever have a flood if the power goes off, because we know we've got a large sump relative to the size of the tank and it's not going to overflow if the return pump stops for any reason. Let's have a look at the next area of risk with this tank in particular, which is the automatic top-up system. The automatic top-up system on this tank is an RO filter that feeds directly into the sump. There's a little float valve that controls the flow of water through the RO system into the sump. And to me, there's a number of areas here that are risky. First of all, we have the problem that if the float valve fails, then potentially water could feed from the RO filter directly across, and it will keep on going until the water goes over the side of the sump and onto the floor. But also, if there was any of these points with the RO filter were to come off, that rigid tubing, if it were to come off, then we would certainly have water on the floor. And we've even got the risk of our waste line which feeds into this drainage pipe here. If that were to come out, then we would definitely have water on the floor. There's a number of ways that this can fail, and the problem is that if it does fail, it will continue to leak because it is connected to an open tap, and if it were to leak, it would be a big one. So our plan in the future for this system is we're going to put what I would describe as a typical RO top-up system, in which we have our RO reservoir, so a tank which holds about 30-40 litres sitting here, and we will have a sensor in the sump, and water will be fed across. Now, the reason why this is a much safer option is because there is no chance that water more than the 40 litres in the reservoir can go into the sump. And as we've already seen, there's a lot of space in that sump. So there's really no way that we can have a leak once we change to a more traditional style auto top-up system on this tank. But that is certainly a job for another day. That will be the last thing that we do to leak-proof Reef Royale. So let's look at the last thing, the skimmer, and what you can do to ensure that the skimmer doesn't cause a leak in your reef tank. The first two categories that we were talking about in terms of their potential for creating a leak, so the plumbing and the automatic top-up system, are really types of leaks that could be catastrophic. Big leaks onto the floor that could really be a problem. But the skimmer can also cause a leak in your aquarium, but typically it's a much smaller and less problematic leak. But what I do see occasionally is that protein skimmers can overskim, and they can create a froth that will actually spill out over the sides of the tank, and it can stain the floors and it can end up, and the walls, and it can end up a real mess. So today we've got a new product that is going to cause or allow us to have some control and prevent a leak through the skimmer. And this is it. An Auto Aqua smart security system. We're going to install this device on this protein skimmer, and we'll show you how it can avoid a leak from your protein skimmer. It's a very simple idea, this skimmer security system, and effectively all you do is you plug it into the power. Your protein skimmer then plugs into this here, and you have a sensor which sits inside the skimmer cup. And the great thing about this is it can really go on any protein skimmer because the sensor's on the inside of the cup. You don't need any cord or cable or anything going in through the cup. All you have is this one little magnetic sensor sitting in the cup. And the idea is, of course, when the water in the protein skimmer cup hits this sensor, it kills the power to the skimmer. Your skimmer turns off and it doesn't froth over the top of the cup. So let's put this device on Reef Royale, on the skimmer, and see how it works. So we take our sensor, and I'm putting it about 1 centimetre below this internal section of the skimmer, so that I know that it's definitely, actually I'm going to drop a little bit more. So we've got, there we go, perfect. So we've got this section on the lid, which is really dictating where we can put our sensor, but that still gives us a good 6 centimeters, so sort of 2.5 inches of water that can fill up, or solution that can fill up before it kills the power to the skimmer. And on this end, this is our protein skimmer cord. We're just going to plug that into the power. Then we're going to plug in our protein skimmer. All right. See, that's flashing, we know it's got power. Now it takes a little while before the protein skimmer will power back up again. So there's a delay set by the sensor. So we'll give it 30 seconds, we'll watch it fill back up again, and then we'll do a test to ensure that our skimmer security is working. We're going to run a test to see that our skimmer security is working, and the way we're going to do it is going to take the lid off, and I'm going to drain water into the cup, simulating the over-skimming effect. So, all right, there we go. I almost caused a flood testing our stop leak. But anyway, you can see how it's worked. The water has got to the point in the cup that it's hit the sensor, and over here, our skimmer security is beeping at us. You can hear that. Certainly beep that you wouldn't miss, but it's also flashing red to indicate that the sensor has hit water. So there you go, our skimmer security is working. So we'll just clean out our skimmer cup and set it back up again. As you can see, our skimmer security is all set up. Now we know that we're not going to have a leak from our protein skimmer. So I do have one other thing that I've seen cause leaks in aquariums over the last few years. We have an honourable mention to this little fellow here. These black poly fittings can actually be a leak risk. Now the reason for this is because over years of use, they can actually break down in salt water. They don't break down in fresh water, but there's something about the salt water that erodes the actual material. And I've seen a number of times that these have failed and caused some significant leaks. So there's something that I always avoid using on reef tank installations. So that's it for today's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Hopefully you've learned a little something about how you can leak-proof your reef aquarium. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing. That's it for this week's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Don't forget to like and comment on all our videos and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned to Gallery Aquatica TV for more exciting episodes to come. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing!